Hello rail fans, and it's me, Train Guy, again with a look this time at the Peninsualr Corridor on Train Sim World, or Train Sim World 2020, whichever version you've got. I will be doing a southbound run on the Baby Bullet service, as they call it, which is basically an express service. Does the fewest stops. It is quite a long route, so it can take quite a long time if you do one of the ones that stops at every station. What I will need to remember to do is change a couple of settings as soon as I go in, because I've got it all set up for German railways. Nice summer's morning, and we will do... what one will we do? Trying to think when there might be just a chance of a wee bit more traffic on the line, so we'll do it as late as possible. So quick guide to the service numbers. It starts with a 1, it's all stop service. It starts with a 2, it's limited stop, and if it starts with a 3, it's the fewest stops. Okay, so just very quickly before we do anything else, let me just change a couple of settings here. Back to Imperial, and something I don't usually use but I'm going to use today is the signal aspect display. And you'll see why that is as we go on. So first thing to do, open the doors. There's no cab controls for the doors, so it's just all done through the menu there. Do a quick setup, so on for these 3 switches. And up here somewhere is the lights for the back of the front number plates. And if you remember to turn the head end power on, that's the lights and stuff, what have you, for the passenger cars. So pop the reverser key in, switch the independent brake on, release the automatic brake, and remember to open the cutout valve. That's basically it. And there's a switch for the gauge lights down here as well somewhere. So wait until 08:35:30, which is just about there, so we'll just close the doors up now. Back to the independent brake. And we can just get straight underway. So it's a fairly slow exit from the station here in San Diego. don't believe that they use the cruising lights as standard. Although all the AI trains seem to have them switched on, so I could be wrong about that. Does happen. So it's a very tight turn getting out of the station here, which is why the speed is so low. While there is still some popping on this route, considering how built up an area you're in a lot of the time, it's nowhere near as bad as the northeast corridor was. So same rules as everywhere else, although we're passing into a new speed limit area, 25 miles an hour. I have to wait for the relay of the train to clear the marker board there. And the speed limit signposts are very similar in concept to the ones you'll find next to a British railway line, where the top speed is, the top number is for passenger trains, the lower speed is for goods trains. So that 40 mile an hour signpost is actually a useful reference point for when you can up it to 25, and then just away beyond this level crossing is where we'll be able to go up to 40, although we won't actually hit 40. Well, we might hit 40, but we won't go much faster than that because there's a station just up the road. Hey, morning Samson, or afternoon just about. Pick it up a little bit. 22nd Street station is just around this corner and through a tunnel. I think this is cool. I think that's a motorway above us, a motorway or a railway or something like that. I think it's a freeway, a motorway. Very claustrophobic feel to this route sometimes. But that does give you a good sense of scale. You feel like you're sitting really, really high up in this cab. And the brakes on this train are they behave like the vacuum brakes on some of the old British trains. So what you're doing is using this needle here, this gauge here, to put the brakes into service mode, find the pressure you want, and stick them back into lap. And you'll see the speeds dropping off, the brakes hold, release them and let them back out. It's fiddly as when you first start using it, but it doesn't take that much getting used to. And that last mode holding basically releases all but the last little bit of pressure. So you put it into that mode basically when you're stopped, and gets you ready to go. Now I'm going way past the point where it tells me to stop, because you have to actually hang the locomotive off the front of the platform here, or the back end of the train will be hanging off. Get the doors open, put the brake back into holding mode. You'll see the needle returns almost to the release position. That means we've done half the job already. Just means a bit less waiting around when we release them. Oh, into camera mode first. So you see, even though I've got the locomotive hanging off, the back of the train is on the platform, but yeah, not a lot of room to work with here. Rest of them are alright, more or less, as far as I remember. So lock the doors. Brakes out. Throttle to the 3rd notch. As soon as you're underway, you can pop it up to 5. And it's now 11 miles to the next station, Millbrae. So leaving San Diego. You can get it up to full throttle fairly quickly. By the time you're doing 20, you should be able to whack it up to full without overloading the traction motors and what have you. A pretty good view from this cab, actually. It's, considering how small the windows are in terms of, you know, the rest of the cab, you get a decent view. And compared to something like the 47 with the big huge square window that you're sitting basically right in front of, that window's a good 5 or 6 feet in front of you in this thing. So, reason I've got the signal aspect on is because, frankly, I just don't have the inclination to completely learn the signalling system here. It's, I find it very, very complicated. Even clear signals have red lights in them a lot of the time, and I can't. The green ones I'm okay with, more or less. It's the various flavours of caution and stop that just confuse the hell out of me largely. Although there is kind of a system to it. So just need to be mindful that we're coming up to a slower section ahead. A good mile or so to run yet. So we'll just give it a little bit of braking power. Could have left it a lot longer to start reducing, but it's been a while since I've driven these. I have to admit, I do like the look of it from outside when you've got all the lights on. Looks kind of cool. So already out of the city. More or less. Won't last for long. We go through this whole strip. If you look this line up on Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever it is these days, it's just basically one long strip of of built-up area from here to San Jose. It's cool though. And some of the stretches of line, you're taking this big, huge train through, basically down back streets. It feels like it's kind of cool. I will do that a lot because I just really like the noise. It does make liberal use of fog in the distance on clear days. Or heat haze or whatever the climate is. But to be honest, I mean, it's it doesn't exactly destroy the experience for me, if I'm being honest. I tend to be focused on the line ahead, even with the guide things on up here. Some of them I suspect we could probably get underway. I've got a feeling that these ones with the computer screens, there's things you would need to do on here that we don't know about, but some of the old British trains and stuff probably could. But being able to get it going and being able to drive it safely, I suspect, are two very different things. And my understanding is that the handling of a lot of the trains in this game does not really reflect the real thing. Line does feel very populated. There is quite a fair amount of traffic on it. Some of them they've cheated a wee bit. A lot of this stuff is static up here, but nevertheless it works. It makes it feel like it's there's a lot going on. So 3 miles to run. 3.5 miles to run to Millbrae. So that's all the morning services from San Jose arriving at San Francisco. Oh, big fog ahead. I've never seen it quite as blatant as that. I think a little bit of light cloud is the way to go with this, just to obscure the fog on the horizon sometimes. It's worse in the wide open flat areas than it is in the built up areas though. A lot of traffic. I have to admit, I actually do quite enjoy driving this train. It's quite responsive, quite predictable. It feels like a big, heavy train as well. It's difficult to describe exactly what I mean by that, but it's a lot better than their, certainly a lot better than Northeast Corridor's effort, those Amtrak thingies. Okay, so just a little over a mile to run now. So we can start thinking about reducing the speed a bit. Where this is going to throw me is that I've been thinking in kilometres for the last few days. So there might be a couple of oh shit moments on the brakes when I realise I'm going a lot faster than I thought. Come on the brakes a lot sooner than I maybe needed to there. So Millbrae, presumably that would be the brae that we've just come down. And see these coloured boards on the right hand side here? These are roughly what you're aiming at. If in doubt, aim for the second set if there's more than one. There we go. And we should be comfortably on the platform. Yeah, bags of room here. So again, they're not long stops on this route, which is good. So we'll just get ready to lock the doors as soon as they're good to go. Yes, basically like the H signs on the halt signs on the Deutschbahn, or the S signs on, or the car stop signs on British platforms. Only station that you just pay no attention to those whatsoever is the first one back at 22nd Street, because you do need to make sure the loco's hanging over the end of the, like, clear of the platform basically. So another 11 miles to Redwood City, and it's mostly built up from here on, I think. There's quite a lot of built up areas. Hey Nick, good to see you, man. Yeah, I took a wee sort of holiday type thing from the sim for a while, but back in business now. Glad to see you're still about as well, dude. So one feature, if you want to call it that, of this line is it's a lot of long, flat, straight sections. It's a good sightseeing route though, because the train to a degree does drive itself despite the lack of automation. Yeah, I think it was actually longer than 2 months, dude. I got really annoyed when they managed to break Transpennine really badly with a patch, and even more annoyed at how rubbish the Amtrak cab car was. And then I bought a Nintendo Switch, and I kind of didn't touch my PlayStation for near enough 3 months, I think it might have been. And I have to admit, that has basically become my main platform now. PlayStation, very much my secondary these days. So there's quite a lot of stations on this route that you never stop at, so I have a feeling that there are other companies or services using these lines as well, maybe some sort of local metropolitan services. So it's just one big built up area along here. But I quite like it because, like I said, it gives you a real sense of, I mean, we're sitting up on the first floor here, second floor for any Americans watching. It really does give you, and when you come into stations as well, you really do feel like you're sitting quite high up. I think we're the last of the morning express services, and I'm not sure, but I don't think we'll get tons and tons of signals on the route this morning. I know that feeling, man. I've been working pretty flat out myself lately too, mate. Although I did actually take a half day on Thursday and all of yesterday off just to sink my teeth into Rhine-Ruhr. So I'm sitting playing California, yeah. Hey, got to pay for our addiction to train somehow, don't we? I think I'm going to start using cheating and using the keyboard for the cameras again. It doesn't give you that little pause. I do have Rhine-Ruhr-Ost. It is rather good. Quite enjoyed it. I will do some more on that as well. Oh, speed. Ah, now, that signal there that we just passed, green with yellow, it basically is the same as if you see that combination on a German railway. It's telling you reduce speed to a limit and be prepared to reduce further. So 60 miles an hour when you first see it by the time you got to the next main signal. If the next one is still green and yellow, proceed at 60. And it's after that it gets confusing as all hell. So I'm going to stick to 60, even though it is a caution, because I can't go straight from green and yellow onto a stop signal. What I'm looking for next is the caution signal up ahead. Now, if it's all orange and red, if the orange is flashing, reduce to, I think it's 50 for a passenger train, 40 for a 45 for a freight train. Overcooked it there. So we'll proceed at 50, but we'll try to and then, depending on what the next one's doing, if it's flashing, hold your 50 miles per hour. If the orange light is solid and steady, reduce further to, I think it's 35 or 40, and that'll give you plenty of time to stop should the next one be a danger. So there we go, it's a steady orange. Don't need to give it too much brake, we'll just get it down to I think it's 35. I would need to go look at the manual again. What I don't really understand is all the several million combinations of red and orange that are available. Some you can drive past, some you can't go past. And I just find it easier to have this thing up in the right hand side to cue me in. Yeah, I can do some ride-offs later on, it's not a problem. So we must be following, there must be something at Redwood City. There's either a junction set against us or there's something sitting on the platform. Don't know about this evening, to be honest with you yet. I'm waiting on a phone call or a text message this afternoon that will determine what I do tonight. So the answer is a hard maybe. So again, a steady yellow, so we'll just keep the speed down. Pick it up a little bit because it's a mile to the next signal. Guessing that's like a big supermarket or something over there. Oh, but Bus Simulator might be making an appearance on this channel at some point. I do have it. I've been playing it on my main account. If I can be arsed starting over again on this one, then it may well make an appearance at some point. Have been thoroughly enjoying it, but by God, it's quite janky at points, and I'm not sure how good it will be for streaming. I mean, I really enjoy it, and the graphics issues don't bother me at all. I'm just going to bring it back down to 35. I try not to rely too heavily on this thing up here. I do still wait until I actually can at least see the signal masthead before I respond to it. Although whatever they've done with the lighting on this, I find it very difficult sometimes to see the colour of the light until I'm almost on top of it. So what I'll generally do is wait till at least you can usually see the masthead just before you can see what colour the lights actually are. So that's when I'll start my braking. So you never need to let the white needle go much below 100 for your mainline braking. There we go, it's gone yellow for us. Student bus driver, wow. I actually, do you know what, I would have applied to do that years ago, but I have some issues with my eyesight on my left hand side. Oddly enough, I'm perfectly legal to hold a road driving licence in the UK. They're only concerned about whether you can read a number plate from a certain distance. It's literally the only eye test they do on you. Don't think I would pass a professional eye test though. And to be honest with you, with the issues I've got on my left hand side, I would just be shitting myself the whole time that I was about to have an accident. I don't think it would be a clever thing to try and do. Same reason that I'll never get to drive a train, sadly. Which is a bit shit, because when I was a little kid, those were like the two jobs I really wanted to do. Well, that and Formula 1 driver, but that might be reaching a bit. But good luck with that, man. That's cool. My best friend's a bus driver. He complains about it all the time, but he secretly loves getting to drive a big heavy machine around small city streets. Roll it on up to the end. Aim roughly for as I said before, aim roughly to be stopping somewhere around these coloured boards. And unlock the doors. Stick the brakes back into holding. The other thing you can do is you can shove the independent brake on, which is basically the locomotive brake, and you can fully release the train brakes at this point. That'll hold it still, and it's a much quicker release when it's time to go. You'll see the signal up ahead of us has changed aspect twice since we've been sitting here, so we are following traffic. So we might have some signals after all. So it's gone full clear. See, it's a clear signal. Why is there fucking red? Ugh. I feel that the signalling system is way too complicated, especially for these comparatively low running speeds. very famous Menlo Park next. Honestly, a trip down this railway line feels like a trip through my mother's record collection. Sometimes. So we get it up to speed, but just bearing in mind we're going to be. This is probably the shortest distance between stations on the line. We're certainly on the humorously named Baby Bullet service. Because comparing this to a 300-mile-an-hour electric train is completely legit. Ah, bless them. Still, like I said, I do actually like the route. I like the trains. Love driving those things. I'm hoping to fix the annoying little bug where the horn stops working after a while, though. Oh, there is a guide out there on US signals. There's loads of them. It's just that there's so many permutations of what the different coloured lights mean, depending on what order they're being displayed in, and whether some of them are flashing or not flashing, and what's on the gantry next to it as well. It's just too much for my wee brain, man. I can only fit so much in there, and I've already got the British Rail network and the Deutsche Bahn network sort of committed to memory. It's as long as you remember the bit about the flashing lights, you're all right, more or less. I've never run into any serious trouble. So flashing light there. We'll get ourselves down to 60, ready to reduce further. And we're coming up on the station anyway, so we're going to be braking anyhow, regardless of what the signal says. So there we go, it's flashing amber. Again, it was maybe a little bit of sharpish on the brakes there. We're probably going to be quite a bit behind schedule by the time we arrive, partly because of the signals and partly because of my crap braking. If you stick it into handle off position, that is basically like turning them on all the way. I didn't actually mean to turn it that far, but not to worry. So what I'm going to do, stick the independent brake on and just completely release the train brake. And yeah. So you'll see there's two sets of these boards here. There's the second set here. Aim for the second set, because if I'd stopped at the first, I would have had my arse hanging off the back of the platform. It takes a wee moment for the doors to shut. You can start spooling the engine up while you're waiting. Always give the horn a little blast, because apparently it's a really good idea to have open and unguarded crossings at the end of the platform when the driver's sitting too high up to see them. Not that I think it makes much difference, right enough, but it's a cool sounding horn. Why not? Palo Alto, that's where Google is, isn't it? Right, so this is the shortest hop between stations. Most of the stuff on here, there's a few things you can click and play with. I never actually even bother turning the alerter on in these trains. A lot of the stuff on that panel clickable, but what it actually does, well, as they say in France, je dinna ken. Oh, not the independent brake, Christ. Made a bit of a pig's ear of that. Going to give it a bit more braking than I normally would. I probably can actually start doing braking a bit later than I generally am. Past it, but never mind. Oh, not the dynamic brake. You never really need the dynamic brake. The dynamic brake kind of relies on you knowing the line well enough to remember there's a slope coming up where you're going to need it anyway. Possibly useful in the big freight trains, not so much in this thing. Oh, lock the doors. I don't know if San Bruno's like the yard where this thing's based, or whether they name their engines after towns like Biard did with some classes back in the day. Right, so a fairly long run to the longer run to Mountain View. We're nearly 6 miles. Let's make sure I go back to the correct brake this time. I think another reason that I'm not losing too much sleep about learning the intricacies of the signalling system is because the safeties aren't modelled on these trains. Knowing I think the British rail signals are just really easy, and I've known those since I was a kid. The German signals, you kind of had to learn them if you wanted to use PZB, but I don't really have that sort of that same impetus here. But it's cool, it works anyway. It's still perfectly drivable. Don't actually know what the regulations are on using the horn and things either on US railroads. I just use it at the drop of a hat because I think it sounds really awesome. So traffic's tailed off a little bit as we get past the peak time. We did see quite a lot of trains heading into the city against us. We'll pass a couple of other things on the way. Right, so I want to be back in the cab so I can see the braking gauge for this next bit. I haven't quite got the hang of using these against on this train. I'm right through this, so we'll probably be arriving just a half a minute or so late. Oh, I don't know if I've gone quite far enough. Let's get the doors open, have a shuffed it. No, we're alright, we're on. That felt like a much shorter platform than it turned out to be. Turns out there probably isn't a big enough battery in the world for you to do that, Samson. I've got a friend who lives in, I think he's in Montana now, but he was in Ohio at the time, and he actually tried that many years ago to put one in a Honda Civic, and what he discovered was, apart from the fact he nearly killed the suspension with all the shit that he needed to put in, pressing the button insta-drained his battery entirely. Apparently the amount of power that the air pump needs is quite incredible. Hey Nico-san, thank you man. No worries dude. We're all busy people, apart from those of us who've got far too much spare time to sit and play with trains. But yep, definitely see you soon man. Right, so next stop, San Jose Diridon. This was actually a lot quicker than I remember it being. I think as we make our way into San Jose, it's like leaving San Diego. It gets very slow and twisty, and making your way basically through the city streets. Very, very much like the way it feels. It's, it doesn't feel like most British lines. I mean, take the Great Western for example. You wouldn't realise you're bang in the middle of London until you arrive at the station at the end, because it's all embankments and it's all sort of kept out of sight. It's just the way we built them. And then a lot of the city was built up after the railway was put there as well, of course, whereas here, I think it's the other way around. City was there long before this line was laid, so they just carved the path straight through. Tommy, hello mate, thank you. Good to see you man. One thing I can never find in here as well is the cab light switch. There is one, but I can never remember where it is. And I don't think it's up on that back wall anywhere. What's that? Fuse cabinet. No, better not press that. Ooh. Again, unfortunately, a lot of those pop-ups will appear because I do most of my driving on my my main account. I think this is the first time I've had, other than to just skip past the mandatory tutorial section, I think this is the first time I've had this turned on this account. So yellow and green together. We'll just carve the speed back a bit and be prepared to reduce further. What have we got ahead? Alright, it's a flashing yellow, so flashing yellow on this is basically like seeing a double yellow on an English line or a British line. It's simply telling you that the next one is likely to be a full caution. It's like flashing is basically advanced caution. Steady is actual caution. So the next one's fixed, so we'll reduce even further. Okay, so next fixed yellow means caution, expect a stop. So we'll just reduce to about 30, 35. I think it is actually slightly higher on the passenger trains, the limit you can do, but I don't have the documentation in front of me. And I feel disinclined to go to the other end of the house and get the laptop that has all that on it. So I'm assuming 5 miles from the station, we're probably on the outskirts of the suburban area of San Jose. So I can see the signal mast ahead and it's still red. So there you go, you got bags and bags of time to respond. Hey James, how we doing? Yeah, I know what you mean, man, but I like to change it up a little bit. There's certainly one thing to be said for non-PZB and CIFA trains is you can spend a lot more time just looking out the window than you otherwise could. Actually, I think this line looks at its best if you put a little bit of light cloud on, to be honest with you, but it's a very, 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 very good looking line. They've put a lot of effort into this one. Let's have a look and see if we can figure out what we're waiting on. Ah, right, so there is a train in the station ahead of us that we're being held for. Yeah, I use the horn far more often than I probably would be doing in real life, man. Oh, right, there's quite a few trains all backed up ahead of us. Why is that then? What's happened? I don't like the look of this. That's not good. wonder if... oh... Right, so let's try and figure this out. You're waiting to go across onto that line. There's a yellow there. Why are you not moving? Right, something's got gummed up here by the looks of it. We seem to be at the back of a queue of several trains. Now, I have done this service before a couple of times on my main account, and I've never once had this happen to me. You have got a caution signal ahead of you, but apparently you can go, so why haven't you? I don't see a conflict. I'm going to just roll up a little closer to this signal and see if that triggers something. Sometimes I wonder if there are invisible trigger points in these things. I'll be bloody annoyed if after all that, though, they're all just simply gummed up because a stupid AI has made a mistake somewhere. Let's have another look. I'm not really seeing what the obvious issue is here. That, I assume, is coming out of the line I want to be on. I know what. Let's do a reconnaissance. Let's just fly the camera up the line. I don't think there's a range limit to how far you can go. So there's a train we've been following. He's stuck at reds. Oh, we'll let the track catch up with us. There we go. So here's the next guy. This is quite annoying actually, because like I say, I've run this route with no significant problems other than a minor sound glitch once. So he's off platform, got his doors shut, he's trying to get underway. Let's see if we can see any movement. I mean, we should be there now, so something has gone horribly wrong, I feel. he can't move. Where are his junctions set? So he's wanting to go onto that line, but he can't move. What's that waiting to come out of there? That's something waiting to come out of a depot. It's this thing here that is it as simple as me doing this? I wonder if doing this will move it. Because he's got his tail lights and his headlights on, so I don't even know what bloody way he's trying to go. It's this guy. Right, not got a clue what that signal actually means, but something seems to have gone horribly wrong for this dude. And because he's blocking that junction, everybody's stuffed. Nothing can get past. Well, that's a bit of a pain in the backside, to be honest with you. So this is where we should have ended up, folks. We seem to have had a signal failure on the line. This is where we finish up. I don't think there's much to see up beyond here. Nah, as far as camera goes. But sadly, I think we're going to have to get everybody off and walk the rest of the way by the looks of it. Never seen that happen on this line before. I'm going to assume the signaller is not going to let me go. Of course he's not, because it's a train in the next block. Well, there we have it then. That's a bit shit. Never mind. Right. Not to worry. The wonders of live television, or YouTube, whatever you want. Let's have a quick look at. Put some cloud in it, just makes the horizon look a little less crap. Have a quick look at this. Now. Tell you what, switch it to summer, so it's a bit. Even at 7 PM in summer, it's getting a little bit dull. And what was I do? That was a southbound that I did, so I want a northbound. Ah, that's fine. Right, yeah, I'll have a wee crack at this. Yeah, still more than a few, man. It's annoying. Every time they seem to fix one, it breaks something else. There's a couple of things on this as well that are actually quite interesting to do with the freight trains. There's a bit of sort of splitting up a train and taking the bits of it to various places. Let's see if I can even remember how to get this damn thing set off. I think the controls are largely in the same place as they are on the other one. I want the engine room lights. I want the number lights. And what you can do as well is, what side do I want to be on? I want to be on the engineer side. If you really want it, you can make sure you've got the number lights on all of them. I don't know if they do actually do this or not. I turn all the number lights on for each unit. So we're a couple of miles north of San Jose already, and this stuff here is crap that dug out the ground for some stadium or other that's been renovated, and we're taking it to San Diego for whatever reason we never actually give you. Just make sure everything's off. Where's the bell button? There you go. So this is definitely a lean out the window train. The view out the front window is no brilliant. So I think the absolute speed limit for this train's like 50 or 60 miles an hour for most of the route. The line speed, I think, is actually calibrated for freight trains on this line, as in the red line down here. I think we need to make sure it runs really well in just normal reality first, if I'm being honest. Oh, let's just turn that bell off. You don't get that with the passenger train, but you do get it with the freight train. So there we go. It's a 50 mile an hour limit for the freight trains. You know what I didn't do? It doesn't actually stop you going if you forget to turn that. It'll let you go anyway. It's, I don't know what difference it actually makes on this one. It won't let you go on the passenger train, but I feel like it should be noisier. I know these are gas turbines and not diesel electrics, but it does sound a bit underwhelming sometimes for compared to what you would expect it to do. Yeah, so every time you hit the horn, the bell will activate itself. This is definitely a sightseeing train in terms of there's no stops or anything, and it's not particularly difficult to control, so you've got a lot of time for just watching the scenery go by. It's not got quite as meaty a sound to it as the passenger one does. It's fair to say. I'm kind of committed to this now though, because a bug that I have discovered is that you can do 2 activities in a row, and then the third one will crash your game, or at least it's doing it for me. I don't know whether everybody's having that problem or whether it's something to do with streaming too many in a row. It just does something. I suspect it's a memory leak issue. Might be something to do with me having a launch day PlayStation as well. I'm locked into this one without restarting a whole new stream. We'll just lose a bit of speed there for the yeah, I've noticed that as well, the FP40 horn sticking. I wonder if no, that's not done anything. Somebody told me the other day if your sound sounds wrong, standing up and sitting down can fix it, but yeah, it happens to me occasionally on this train as well, where the horn won't blow after a while, and it's always when I've used my keyboard to either sound the horn or turn the bell off. As long as I stick to using the pad, it seems to be alright. I've said that, it'll break. Do what, mate? There's the sound starting to come and go, even with the rattles on the sleepers there. That's yeah. Let's slow it down a bit more because that's a fixed yellow. So next one will be a red. So down to about 25. Rear Austin is it's short, yes. The total amount of track mileage though it isn't that much less than. Well, I don't think it's that much shorter than your other German routes, to be honest, because the S-Bahn and the main line run parallel to each other for a bit. So there's it's a bit like Long Island Railroad. There's multiple routes through it. And it does, like the other German routes, it lets you mix in if you have traffic from other packs, if you've bought the 155 or the 182, if you have Ruhr Nord, there's quite a lot of stuff you can use on it. When I first got it, I was kind of thinking the same, it seems a bit short, I'm not sure, but I don't know, it's alright, yeah. It's not as long from end to end, but there's still plenty of track in there. Right, so we've got green up ahead. And what Ruhr Austin is actually going to be really good for is if you have, less than an hour to fill and you still want to go and drive a train, you've got half an hour, 45 minutes. Perfect for that. Because one thing the game has kind of been lacking is, short, quick activities to do. So yeah, I can see why you would be sort of wondering, is it worth it for such a short line though? I definitely had my reservations as well, but I certainly feel like I'll get my money's worth out of it. I'm sure these sounded a lot meatier when I was playing this before. It does take loads of time to get any speed up on this. It's I don't know how heavy each of those wagons are, but it does feel like a heavy train. Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as Samson there. If they release it, I will probably buy it. I think the only thing I haven't bought yet is one of the locomotives for West Somerset. So yeah, I guess in part the value you'll get from Ruhr Ost is kind of dependent as well on What else you've invested in? I mean, I know with all the other German routes installed, it's a busy route. There's loads of traffic to be seen, especially around peak times. I've seen myself sort of, 3-4 trains at a time, all coming and going from the stations. Any route. Oh, I would love to see a Shinkansen on this, the Japanese bullet trains. That would be awesome. But I think anything above about 120 miles an hour, they would be really toiling to make it look good at the moment. Failing that, I'm going to give the same answer as just about everyone else does when you go looking on forums and pick one of my local routes. I'd quite like to see the East Coast main line heading north from Edinburgh, get across the rail bridge and up into Fife and along the coast. It's an absolutely gorgeous piece of line. That scenery is amazing as you go up the East Coast. Hell, if distance wasn't an object, do the whole damn thing from Inverness to London. I used to have the East Coast main line on the original train simulator, and I think I had the whole line from Newcastle to King's Cross, with the Leeds and the Hereford loops thrown in as well. And I did 90% of my driving on that line. Edinburgh to Glasgow would be quite a good one as well, because that's only about 45 miles. It's not that much longer than the Great Western that we've got. Yeah, exactly right, Samson. I mean, I've been playing with simulators of one flavour or another for 20 years now, and it's always been like this. It's not quite a big enough market for it to be cheap. They tend to be fairly small companies. They need to pay their bills. I get why it's priced the way it is. It's not like $1 billion company wanting money off you for every tiny little thing in the game either. I mean, what you buy is what you know what you're getting, you know. Yeah, it's 25 quid, but I know I'm getting X amount of track, I'm getting X amount of trains, I'm getting X amount of activities to play with, because they always do a developer stream before they launch it anyway, show you exactly what's in there. It's not like I'm throwing down 25 quid and then opening surprise mechanics to see what my money got me. It's a different beastie. I don't really object to it. I think the locomotives, the individual locos might be a little bit on the steep side, but the routes themselves I'm quite happy with so far. Yeah, X amount of bugs, correct. They're far from the worst offenders I've ever come across. If anybody remembers a company called Aerosoft from back in the Flight Simulator 2004 days, by God, I think it was Aerosoft, who did a line of Airbuses that were just, so close to being amazing, but just so many little bugs and issues with them. Yeah, I think the most commonly heard phrase from people playing with them was, "What the bloody hell is it doing now?" I'll need to go and look that up actually. I think I've still got a couple of the aircraft lying on an old hard drive somewhere. In fact, some companies were so notorious that the main network that we all used to play on, a network called VATSIM, started insisting that if you were using payware add-ons, you put the make and model in your flight plan so that the controllers would know to expect the unexpected from certain things. So the yellow's flashing, so that's a distant caution effectively. And we'll just take some of the speed off. And you can brake much harder than what I'm actually doing, but obviously in real life you've got all sorts of things that are not modelled here, like breaking the couplings and overstressing the train, what have you. Remember MSTS used to model all that stuff. Never once did get one of these freight trains across the Santa Fe Pass because I always ended up breaking the bloody couplings on the hills. That wasn't the Santa Fe Pass, it was the Santa Fe Railroad. I can't remember what the stretch was on that game. God, that was nearly 20 years ago, man. Mental. Can't quite see what the light's doing yet. It's right, so that's not flashing. The yellow is steady, so oh no, it's just started flashing, so it's become a distant caution. Yeah, that's it exactly. I mean, it's not like we've got tons of choice if we want to play the train sims. And to be fair, I mean, there are bugs, but they do seem to try and fix them. Yes, it quite often breaks something else, but with a few glaring exceptions like ATC and Access, they generally seem to try and sort it out. It must be a nightmare as well for a company that size to try and do a really serious QA. I mean, can they afford to pay 100 teenagers to sit in the basement and play the game for 15 hours a day for months before it launches? Doubt it. I suspect a lot of the routes don't get fully, or a lot of the services don't get fully driven until it's in the hands of players. I guess it's one of these expectation versus reality things, isn't it? I mean, we all expect all software houses to do rigorous QA now, but the reality is you've got to pay the folk that do it. I mean, their turnover is less than 2 million a year the last time I looked at their company's house entry, which is not a lot. It's less than half the total budget for Mighty Number 9, just to put it into context. And I know turnover is not the same as profit, but it highlights the fact that we're not talking Electronic Arts or Activision numbers here. Now, if they were doing that kind of money, I would be expecting this thing to be completely and utterly bug-free, totally polished. Well, maybe not from Electronic Arts. Looking at you, FIFA. Say what you want about Activision games, they at least generally work the way they're supposed to. I realise that's a bit like saying Mussolini made the trains run on time, but, you know, you get the point. I think we're following a stop-in service up the line, which is why we've been riding yellows for a while. Although it does have a huge speed advantage over us, this time of day there are no express services on the line, so it will be at least a limited stop, if not on all stations. Not sure the two go hand in hand, to be honest with you. I mean, what the fuck did Rockstar give away for nothing? Love their single player games, but oh my word, the multiplayers, no. I just don't have the time needed to grind out anything in a Rockstar game. But credit where it's due, they're bloody honest. I mean, they went and opened a literal casino in their game. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Just trundling along here nice and slowly so we can respond to any signal. Just because I've got the thing up in the top right hand corner there doesn't mean I use it as a crutch. I do still try to drive it as I would without it. Right, so that yellow flashing ahead, that's effectively a distant caution, so we'll just pick it up a wee bitty. I loved Red Dead 2. In fact, I was actually thinking earlier on about reinstalling it, because I've been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which... good enough game, but it just made me want to play Red Dead for some reason. I never did finish the... I finished the... oh, what was his name? The main character you played. Arthur. I finished Arthur's story. But I never did the bit where it picks up with the Marsdens. God, I spent so many hours on that game last year. That's the really frustrating thing about Rockstar, actually, is they make arguably some of the best single-player games out there. But it feels increasingly like they're just a means to an end to lever in a multiplayer and make lots of money. I would love to be proved wrong. I would love to see them do some single player DLC for Red Dead 2, but there's still a bit of a sour taste in my mouth after they promised us it for GTA 5 and then did a swift reverse ferret when they realised how much money they could make off the online. An eye out for what type of signal this is. It's so I think we've got a steady yellow, so we'll just ease off again a little bit. Oh no, it's just started flashing. So whatever's running ahead of us is opening up a bit of a lead, although I suspect that it might just actually have left Redwood. We'll keep it to 40. The signal on the right there is now gone green and yellow, so don't need to worry. That's effectively a distant caution. Even looks a bit darker through that glass. It's like it might be slightly tinted or something. So there is a speed limit change coming up ahead. I think we actually were going into a siding and dumping some wagons, if I remember correctly. So steady yellows, that's a caution. These are where they start confusing me, because I don't really see what the practical difference is between two yellows and a single yellow, and it's their signalling system's route based the same as ours is, I think. I just don't understand their one how it works entirely. Bridging loans. I wonder what goes through that. It's just a footbridge. Okay. Yeah, there's the sound going a bit funny again. It should be where it's cutting out there. It should be making squeals and. I feel that I might not do much more with this route as far as the stream's concerned anyway, until it's had a bit of TLC from the patching team. Oh, I need to be down to 10 miles an hour as well. Ah, shit. Yeah, one of the activities that you can do in this is this rake, the part of the rake we're about to drop off. You then use the locomotive parked up on the right here to take it back down off of off onto a branch line, and then you kind of have to cut it up and leave bits of it at various sites. One of which is a tiny tight little siding that you've got almost no extra room in. It's actually quite good. I quite enjoyed that one. Longer train than I thought. So more or less down to the end, because we need the whole thing to be on the side and clear the points. Should probably be down at the cab end for this. Oh my God, son. So I think it's just before we go on to the points that we need to stop. There we go. So I need to take the last 9 off. Okay, Samson, good to see you, man. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you're up to. I'll catch you again soon. it's this one. There we go. And I also need to, if I remember correctly, yes, need to remember to set the set points, otherwise you go off onto the, is it this one I need to set? Yes. Otherwise you end off going off the blind points there. No, I want you to... That's it. Bit punchier without those last 9 wagons on it. So, still take a while for the back end of the train to clear the speed restriction. Slight downhill as well though, so just the odd tap of the brake just to keep the speeds under the limits. Right, let's get motor in. I think there would be a bell button here somewhere as well. Oh, definitely a bit more rapid without the extra weight. Mind you, slight downhill helps as well, I guess. Did not notice you could do that before. You can do the other side as well. Oh, I remember that. It's the shopping centre from the way up. Still even got the same truck parked outside it. So probably about halfway along the route at this point. But, no more stops until San Diego. Yeah, put that back up, I think. Don't know, it just looks a bit funny being in the down position to me. Not seen much in the way of other traffic yet. Oh, forgot the speed limit. This might be one of these stretches where, if you remember it, you might want to use the dynamic brake instead, but it takes a wee minute for that to set up. generally find if I don't start using it or doing the setup until I'm actually on the hill, then by the time it takes any effect, it wasn't worth doing. You'd have been as well just using the main brake. But if you know the line well enough, and dynamic brakes there, works largely as I think it's supposed to. Let's just keep that speed in check. Again, no idea what the rules actually are on using your horn on this route, but I'll use it more or less at the drop of a hat. The FP40's one definitely sounds better though. So flashing green, that's like the distant caution. 40 is more than enough for that, or less than enough, I suppose. I feel like the noises from the level crossings are really loud compared to the train effects. So the flashing yellow, there's your proper distant caution. So the next one could well be a steady yellow, which is your actual caution. I can see the mast, I just can't quite make out what the coloured lights are yet. That's a flashing yellow as well, so that's still effectively a distant caution. Could be going a bit quicker, I guess. And slight uphill slope as well, so just a bit of power to compensate. And then this next little stretch of it's the bit I'm thinking of. It's like, it feels almost like they've ripped up a city street and replaced it with some tracks. So still a flashing green, so still effectively a distant caution. So 30 to 35 you should be alright. And there's the steady yellow, so that's basically a full caution, if you like. So there's the mast coming into view now. You can see the reds from here. Just there we go. It's gone to caution as we approach. I think they're called different things to what I'm referring to them as. They're called things like approach medium and approach limited and things like that, and I can't remember them. So still over half a mile to the next signal, so you can pick it up a little bit as long as you remember it's there and make sure you're back to the appropriate speeds in time. Again, this is a route-based signalling system, not a speed control-based one, I think. And certainly none of the safety doohickeys are implemented, so green and yellow together, it's like a distant caution type debris, so pick it up a little bit. We will have to slow down again. I think it'll probably stop us at Millbrae just as a kind of checkpoint and thing. Oh shit. Had the cursor turned off. Huh. Right. A little bit of brakes. That should be enough for what we need. So the flashing one, that's like the distant caution, so the next one can only be a variation of yellow. Can't actually see it for the damn trees, that doesn't make any difference. And it's a blinking yellow, so that's okay. That means the next one can only be yellow or clear. Well, it means it's currently set to yellow. It might clear by the time you get there, but it shouldn't go straight from flashing yellow to a red. Never noticed all the planes in the sky before. Can't see our one yet. I can see the mast, can't quite make out the lights. And it's fixed, which suggests if that one's fixed, it means the next one's currently set to stop. So this will be the first of the early afternoon services making its way southbound. Might see a few more trains as we approach San Diego. So there we go, flashing yellow, distant caution, pick it up a little I think. And it's only 4 miles from Millbury to the yard we go to, we don't go all the way into the city. Make sure they are all the way off. There's no mechanism on this train to stop you gunning the engine up when the brakes are on. Wonder if that's all switched on just now. Ooh, topical. Just wind it back down for the caution again. Big uphill climb coming here. Ah, cool, never noticed that before. It's a blinking yellow as well, so again we can pick it up a bit. I think we might be following a northbound all stops. So nearly there. San Francisco. I've been calling it San Diego the whole way. Duh. Right, so I think we'll go off down a siding if I remember rightly, and then we just park up down there. That's the end of it. Oh, big bit of pop in there. And this is the last half mile now, so we just coast on in. I think this makes us dump the thing and then drive off a wee bit further. I did do this once ages ago on my other account. So there, yeah, there's a flash and 2 reds, but you can still go past. That's the sort of thing that confuses me a bit about these signals. Oh, going a wee bit on the quick side as well. Let's just get rid of that speed. And then we'll naturally shed a bit of speed as the train crosses those points and friction does its thing. I think we run around to the other end because it gets pulled away off up the branch line that we just passed. Do. Right, so that's just the end of it. No run around required. Excellent. Alright, so that was the Peninsualr Corridor, bugs and all. It's, I do actually quite enjoy it. It's just a shame we had that problem with the signalling up at San Jose earlier on. But, that's enough for now. So as always, thanks very much for everyone who's watched, dropped in, dropped out, what have you. Always a pleasure, and I'll catch you guys again soon.